Alright, so since tapos na tayo, na-discuss na natin yung normal anatomy and physiology of the heart, so we will now start discussing the inflammatory infectious disorder of the heart. So after this discussion, you will understand ano ba yung mga pwede or possible heart problem or infectious problem with your heart. So ano ba yung mga pwede na yan? So let's start with what we call pericarditis. And later on, we will discuss ano ba yung cardiac tamponade. So, under yan ng pericarditis. So, pericarditis, from the word itself, how will you define pericarditis? So, sabi nga natin, di ba, peri means around. So, this, ibig sabihin, tapos cardi, ito ibig sabihin, ito yung, cardi is meanings of the heart. So, ibig sabihin, cardi is ito daw yung nakabalot dun sa puso natin. And itis, di ba, pag sinabi natin, dinugtungan natin siya ng itis, meron tayong suffix na itis, it means infection or inflammation. So, by definition, pericarditis is the inflammation of the pericardium. This is the membranous sac enveloping the heart. So, yung nakabalot dun sa puso natin. So, ibig sabihin siya yung inflame, siya yung namamaga. So, as you can see sa picture, di ba, ito yung normal natin, doon sa normal pericardium, di ba? Makita nyo, dapat hindi naman siya namamaga. Pero dito sa merong pericarditis, ayan yung mapula na yan, ibig sabihin, namamaga yung pericardium ni patient. Okay? So, ano ang nagiging cause? What are the causes dun sa mga pasyente na nagkaroon ng pericarditis? So, number one cause is idiopathic. When we say idiopathic, ano ibig sabihin nun? Alam po? Anyone? Ano ibig sabihin pag idiopathic?
Sir, unknown po yung cause.
Unknown yung cause. Thank you, Raisa. So, pag sinabi natin idiopathic, the cause is unknown. Hindi natin alam bakit namaga yung pericardium ng pasyente. Okay? Ano pa daw pwede maging cause? It could be caused by an infection. What kind of infection? It could be viral infection like Coxsackie virus, di ba? Bacterial infection. Anong klase? Bacteria like your tuberculosis, which is, ano daw yung causative agent for tuberculosis, di ba? Your Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So, ibig sabihin, yung Mycobacterium tuberculosis, pwedeng i-infect din niya yung pericardium ng pasyente. And other kind of infection or bacterial infection, yung mga staphylococcal, pneumococcal infection. Diba? Protozoal, pwede rin, or mycocytic infection. So, any kind of infection, it could be a reason or pwede mag-cause siya ng pericarditis. We also have what we call your collagen vascular diseases. Ano yung mga collagen vascular diseases? Ibig sabihin yung mga connective tissue ng pasyente. Yun yung may problem. Ano sample? Patient who have systemic lupus erythematosus. Diba? Malamang narinig nyo na yan. Diba? Sabi yan, si ano daw, may ganyan. Sino yung sikat na artista? Si Chris Aquino. Meron daw lupus or SLE na tinatawag. We also have your scleroderma and rheumatoid arthritis. So, those diseases, i-discuss natin yan further after this semester. Kasi, yung topics na yan will belong to medical surgical nursing too. Pero tandaan, yung mga collagen vascular disease, yung mga connective tissue disease could also be a cause para magkaroon ng pericarditis yung patient. Next is, ano daw? Metabolic. When we say metabolic, it pertains to anong organ? Yung ating kidney. So, those patients who have renal failure, may mga problem with filtering. Di ba sabi natin, the kidney is responsible for filtering, paglilinis ng blood. So, ibig sabihin, may problem sa pag-filter. So, ibig sabihin, yung bacteria, pwedeng sumama sa circulation. It could cause yung pericarditis natin. Next is autoimmune disease. Ano naman pag autoimmune? Sinabi natin autoimmune, your immune system is attacking your own immunity. So, ibig sabihin, yung sarili mong katawan ang sumisira dyan. Okay? Pag neoplastic diseases are your cancer, di ba? Pwedeng yun yung nagiging cause niya. Ano pa daw? Could be due to injury. Anong klaseng injury? Di ba? Pwedeng because of myocardial infarction. Di ba? Nagkaroon ng heart attack yung pasyente. Di ba? Meron din tayong tinatawag na post-MI syndrome or also known as Dressler syndrome. So, this happens or the patient nagkakaroon siya ng pericarditis or inflammation of the pericardium plus fever plus pleural effusion 1 to 12 weeks after niya magkaroon ng myocardial infarction. So, pwede yun. Kala nila gumaling na. Tapos after nun, meron na namang another problem si patient. Ano pa daw? Pwedeng post-pericardiotomy syndrome. Ano may pericardiotomy, di ba? Otomy. Di ba? Pag otomy, sabihin may opening. Nagkaroon ng operation si patient. Di ba? Post-thoracotomy. Di ba? Yung thorax niya na open. Nagkaroon ng opening sa to. Nagkaroon ngayon ng reason or nagkaroon ng portal of entry. That could cause, di ba, yung pericarditis natin. Also, radiation therapy, those patients who are undertaking mga cancer, di ba? Yung radiation therapy, ginagawa yan or ginagamit yan, di ba, to shrink down yung mga tumor cells. But, di ba, yung radiation kasi, that's the problem, hindi lang naman yung cancer cell ang pwede niyang masira, even the healthier cell. And sometimes, yung, lalo pag malapit sa heart, nasa may chest area, yung bukol, pwedeng tamaan din yung pericardium ng heart. So, it could cause, pwede pa rin maging inflame yung pericardium natin. And trauma. Nung klaseng trauma. Iniwan ng jowa, hindi. Trauma na, for example, nagharutan kayo ng classmate mo, napikong ka, di ba? Bigla mo kinuha yung ballpen o kaya yung pencil mo, sinaksak mo dun sa pasyente mo, ay sa pasyente, sa klase mo. So, bumaon, umabot hanggang sa pericardium. So, pwedeng ma-inflame din po yun kasi nga nag-cause ka ng trauma. Okay? So, what are the classification of pericarditis? So, pericarditis could be classified as subacute, acute, or chronic. Diba, pag sinabi natin acute or subacute, sudden, biglaan, mabilisan. Pag acute, long term, matagal na siya. More than weeks or 4 weeks na siyang meron yan. Diba? Ano pa daw? Adhesive. Pag sinabi adhesive, this is related to your collagen vascular diseases, yung mga connective tissue diseases. And in a pericarditis, sabi natin, di ba sabi, inflammation, and di ba andun yung pericardial sac, andun yung pericardial fluid. So, pwedeng magkaroon ng accumulation of fluids dun sa pericardial sac ni patient. So, anong klaseng fluid yung pwedeng mag-accumulate dun? Anong pwedeng meron dyan? It could be a serum or what we call serous. Mag-serous, ito yung para siyang water. Diba, lalo pag nasugatan ka, diba, sa paligid ng sugat may parang white doon, parang clear water. So, po yun yung serum. Ano pa daw? Pwedeng magkaroon ng pus or purine, magkaroon ng nana doon sa mismo pericardium ni patient. Or calcium deposit or calcific, diba? Ayan, clotting proteins or fibrinous. Ibig sabihin yung mga clots, pwede rin siyang maipon doon. Mag-accumulate doon sa mismo pericardial sac ni patient. And kapag nakaipon yun doon, pwede mag-cause yun ng inflammation doon sa mismo sac. Or pwede rin si blood or what we call sanguinous. So, that's how we will define. Di ba? Pag sinabi, ano yung itsura ng fluids? Ay, Dok, ano po? Bloody? Hindi. Dapat ang sabi mo, Dok, sanguinous. Sabihin, may blood. Di ba? So, yun yung mga pwedeng mag-accumulate sa pericardial sac ng pasyente natin. Okay, let's move with the pathophysiology. How the disease is nangyayari? Paano siya nagkukos? Ano yung nagiging cause dun sa patient natin? Okay, so sabi natin, the first thing is, ano yung cause? Sabi natin, pericardial tissue damage caused by bacteria. Or di ba yung kanina din sa atin, yung mga other cause. Pwedeng due to trauma, di ba? Pero in a normal, kadalasan, since nagkaroon ng tissue damage, what will be the effect? What will be the response of our body? Diba sabi natin, your body will now release chemicals. Anong klaseng chemical? These chemicals releases during a infection or during an inflammation. Anong mga chemicals yan? So, your prostaglandins, your histamine, your bradykinins, serotonins, dun sa tissue kung saan na-damage. So, siya nire-release. And once it release, doon nagsisimula yung inflammatory process, yung pamamaga doon sa mismong area. So, what will happen pag namaga yung area? Diba? Sabi dito, friction occurs as inflamed pericardial layers rub against one another. Diba? Yung pericardium nakabalot doon sa heart. si heart nagko-contract. So, possibly, kakaskas siya ng kakaskas, magkakaroon ng friction. Diba? So, ano ngayon ang mangyayari? So, there are two things that could happen. Diba? Doon muna tayo sa left side. Sabi natin, if nagkaroon ng inflammatory process, nagkaroon ng friction, what will happen? Histamines and other chemicals will later dilate the vessels and increase the permeability. Ibig sabihin, i-stretch, lalaki yung mga vessel. So, ano mangyayari kung na-i-stretch yung mga vessels natin, yung mga ugat na yan? Or yung mismo covering na yan? What will happen? Dahil na-i-stretch siya, di ba, numinipis, there is a tendency na magkakaroon ng leakage ng fluids and proteins. Diba? So, pag nag-leak yan, dun sa mismong tissue, ano mangyayari? It will cause extracellular edema, mamamanas, magkakaroon ng accumulation of fluids. Diba? So, ano ngayon ang gagawin? Diba, sabi natin, nagkakaroon ng accumulation of fluids, which is not normal dun sa mismong pericardium ni patient. So, magre-respond ngayon yung katawan mo. So, what will be the response? Diba, sabi natin, yung katawan natin, meron yung normal defense. Diba? So, sino yung mga normal defense? So, number one dyan is si macrophages. Diba? Si macrophages, yan yung kumakain ng mga bacteria. Sabi dito, macrophages begin to phagocytize the invading bacteria. So, kakainin niya yun. Katulong yung neutrophils and monocytes. Diba? So, kakainin niya ng kakainin. So, ano mangyayari? So, naglaban. So, after several days, diba, sabi ito, the area fills with an exudate composed of necrotic tissue and dead dying bacteria, neutrophils and maglaban yung mga namatay, mag-i-stay siya doon. So, pag nag-stay siya doon, kapag nag-resolve siya, ano mangyayari? Sabi dito, the contents of the cavity autolyze and are gradually reabsorbed into healthy tissue. Kasi nag-resolve siya. Nanalo yung panlaban mo sa katawan. So, natapos yung infection, yung inflammation. But the problem is, hindi nanalo yung panglaban mo sa katawan. Ano ngayon na mangyayari? It will now continue to accumulate fluid. maiipon yung fluid. That's why the patient will have pericardial effusion. Ano yung pericardial effusion? So, magkakaroon ng accumulation of fluids dun sa pericardial cavity, sa pericardial sac. So, kung nagkakaroon ng accumulation of fluid, inflame yung pericardium, dumadami yung fluids, may ipon dun sa space na yan, what will happen to the patient? Diba? Sabi dito, since dumadami yung fluid, ano mangyari? The heart will be now compressed. Diba? Nako-compress yung heart. So, dahil nako-compress siya, anong problem? Diba, sabi natin, the heart is tumitibok siya. Meron tayong diastole and systole. So, diastole, this is the feeling or relaxation. So, dahil nako-compress, hindi nakakapag-relax yung heart ng maayos. Meaning, yung feeling ng pag-feel ng blood dun sa ventricles or dun sa atrium, hindi siya nangyayari ng tama. Kasi nga, nako-compress nung mismong fluids na nag-accumulate dun sa pericardial sac. And it will now result dun sa tinatawag natin decrease in the cardiac output. Diba sabi natin, si cardiac output kailangan niya ng katawan. Dahil nga hindi siya nakakapag-feel ng tama, ng enough, bumabagsak yung cardiac output. And if your cardiac output will decrease and malulunod yung puso, it will now be called cardiac tamponade. So, ang nangyari, nalunod yung puso kasi nagkaroon ng accumulation ng maraming fluids. So, ganun po yung nangyayari. Okay? Nasundan po? Gets po ba? Gets. Sige. So, next, di ba sabi natin, yun yung nasa left side. So, let's now move to the right side. Sabi natin, nagkaroon ng friction, continuously nagkaroon ng friction, naging chronic and recurrent yung pericarditis ni patient. Paulit-ulit. Hindi nga nagkaroon ng accumulation of fluids, pero dahil paulit-ulit siya, recurring yung pericarditis, what will happen to your pericardium? Your pericardium will become thick and stiff. Kumukunat. Hindi na nagiging stretchable. So, dahil hindi siya nag-i-stretch, Ano daw? Sabi natin, di ba siya yung nakabalot sa heart. So ngayon, pine-prevent na ulit yung heart na properly mag-fill or mag-relax para mapasok yung mga blood dyan sa mismo heart natin. And it is now called chronic constrictive pericarditis. So this causes the increase in the left and right siding of the pressure dun sa heart natin. So ibig sabihin, konti. So kung konti na naman yung feeling, yung pagpunta ng blood dyan, so ano mangyari? Di ba babagsak ulit yung stroke volume ng pasyente together with the cardiac output of your patient. Okay, so ano lang pinakaiba nilang dalawa? Doon sa other side, pwedeng magkaroon ng cardiac tamponade. Dito naman, dahil naging stiff, dun sa chronic constrictive pericarditis, kumunat, di ba, hindi na naging stretchable. So, same pa rin yung naging effect. Affected or bumabagsak yung stroke volume and cardiac output of the patient. So, that's how pathophysiology of pericarditis works o kung paano siya nangyayari. May question po? Nasundan po natin? Sige. So, kung nasundan, so, since naintindihan natin the disease process, now, we'll move with the clinical manifestation. So, what can we see now in the patient? Diba? What will appear? What will be the signs and symptoms that patient will makikita natin sa patient natin? Diba? So, number 1 is, ano daw? Since there is an inflammation, there will be pain. So, may pain na mararamdaman si patient. So, where the patient can feel the pain? Sabi natin, it could be feel in the precordium, beneath the clavicle, neck and left scapular region. Dito sa left side, upper left, dun siya sumasakit. Okay? So, ano pa daw? Sabi, the pain is aggravated by breathing during inspiration, during turning, and during twisting of the body. Bakit? Diba, if we inhale, what will happen to your lungs? Diba, your lungs will expand. So, kung nag-expand yung lungs, anong mangyayari? The heart will be compressed. Di ba namamaga? May inflammation. So, lalo siyang magiging painful. So, how will we manage that? Anong gagawin natin doon sa pasyente para mabawasan yung pain na nararamdaman ni patient? So, how will we alleviate the pain? So, it should be, repositioning your patient. What will be the foot position of your patient? So, you should position your patient by sitting up or leaning forward, or what we call the orthopnic position. So, bakit? Bakit, sir, pag po ba umupo yung pasyente, hindi na mag-e-expand yung lungs? No, mag-e-expand yung lungs, but it will expand outward. Diba? Hindi, mape-prevent natin na makompress yung heart ng pasyente. Diba? So, the best way to alleviate yung pain or to relieve the pain of your patient, instruct them to be in a sitting up position or leaning forward, or what we call the orthopnic position. Okay? So, ano pa daw? Ano pa daw yung manifestation? There will be a creaky or scratchy friction rub. Sabi, heard most clearly at the lower sternal border. Left, lower. So, sa left side. Kasi di ba din yung pain? So, pag inoscultate mo siya, ano yung maririnig mo? Parang scratch, parang nag-ano ka ng papel, naglukot ka ng papel. Parang may ganong sound kang maririnig pag inoscultate mo siya. Ano pa daw? Patient will have mild fever. Yes, di ba? May inflammation. Normal the response, di ba? Magkakaroon ng fever si patient. Patient may also have non-productive cough. So, may ubo yung pasyente, pero wala namang phlegm na nilalabas. Diba? So, kumbaga parang because of the pain, because of the inflammation, nagkakaroon ng kumakatila lang muna, kaya umuubo yung patient natin. Patient may also have hiccup or sinop, dyspnea. No kay dyspnea? Difficulty in breathing. Nahihirapan huminga yung pasyente. Bakit kaya siya nahihirapan huminga? Masabi natin, because of the inflammation, di ba, nako-compress yung heart. So, dahil nako-compress, kinukulang ng oxygen. That's why nahihirapan huminga. And other signs and symptoms of heart failure may also patient. So, ano yung signs and symptoms ng heart failure? So, park natin yan kasi after we discuss all the inflammation of the heart, we will be discussing the heart failure, which is, there are two types of heart failure. Meron tayong left-sided heart failure and right-sided heart failure. Okay, so what will be our diagnostic evaluation for patient who have pericarditis? So, number one, if we check the blood of the patient, it will show that the erythrosedimentation rate is elevated together with the C-reactive protein. So, ano yung mga yan? So, like, for example, the C-reactive protein, this is an heart muscle enzymes, diba? Ibig sabihin, affected siya. Kaya siya nare-release. Kaya tumataas yan during the inflammation. So, echocardiography will be also be done. Ito yung mas kilala nyo na 2D echo or the ultrasound of the heart. It will identify, di ba? Sabi natin, through echocardiogram, makikita natin, kamusta ba yung heart? Paano ba yung stroke volume na niya? Gaano ba kadami yung effusion if merong effusion yung patient? Di ba? CT scan can be also be done to reveal, di ba? Or to see how thick is the pericardium. Gaano na ba kumapal yung pericardium ng pasyente? And also, syempre, it is normal that we will see that the WBC of your patient is elevated. Diba? Sabi niya, as a normal response of your body, due to infection, diba, dapat mag-produce siya ng maraming WBC. Diba? Ibig sabihin, may lumalaban dun sa infection. And if you will check the ECG or AKG of your patient, it will show atrial fibrillation. So, saan yung atrial fibrillation? It will now represent, di ba sabi natin, yung P-wave, it is represented by the atrial depolarization. So, ibig sabihin, di ba, nako-compress, di ba, yung feeling ng heart is compromised. That's why, it will now represent in your ECG yung AP, yung P-wave nawawala. Hindi niya na-detect yung firing of your SA node. So, yun yung lumalabas sa ECG ni patient. Gets po? Ayan. So, what will be now the nursing process na patient na may pericarditis? Diba? Ano yung magiging action natin? Diba? Advite, assess na natin. So, let's now move with the nursing diagnosis. So what will be our diagnosis? Diba? Sabi natin, in pain yung patient. So, our diagnosis will be acute pain related to inflammation of pericardium. So, hindi natin pwedeng gamitin si pericarditis. Kapag sinabi mo kasing pericarditis, nag-diagnose ka na. So, sabi na kaya sa atin, acute pain related to inflammation of the pericardium. So, what will be our plan and goal? Anong gagawin natin kay patient? In pain yung pasyente. Mamamaga yung pericardium. So, we want to decrease the, the complication. We want to relieve the pain of the patient. On how? Paano? Diba? Maga. So, ano gagawin natin? Siyempre, kailangan hindi magtrabaho ng sobra yung heart natin. That's why we need to advise the patient on bed rest or chair rest in a sitting upright and leaning forward position. So, chill lang siya para hindi mag-extra work yung heart natin. Kasi pag yan nagbigyan mo ng extra work, diba, nagmitibok yan, nagra-wrap na dun sa mismong pericardium, lalo mag-i-inflame. Kaya dapat mag-rest yung pasyente. So, bed rest po tayo. Ano pa daw? Instruct patient to resume activities of daily living as chest pain and friction rub. Abay, pag nawala na yung chest pain, wala na yung friction rub na nararamdaman. Pwede na. Pero, tandaan, gradual. Unti-unti. Diba, halimbawa, naka-bed rest siya. So, anong next na gagawin? Pagkatapos ba ng bed rest, magja-jogging? No. Diba, bed rest, halimbawa, tatayo muna. From bed to chair, dun lang muna. Na wala pa rin pain. O pwede mag-ikot-ikot sa bahay, ay sa room muna. Okay, wala pa din. O sige, pwede na lumabas ng kwarto, lakad-lakad muna. O wala pa din. O mayaman kayo, malaki bakuran nyo, ikutin mo muna yung bakuran. Okay, ano pa? Pwede rin yung buong barangay na ikutin mo. Di ba? Nag-apply ka na pala na barangay tanod. Di ba, inikot mo na yung buong barangay. Okay, ano pa daw? Administer medications. So, when administering medication, we need to monitor and record the responses. Like, for example, we gave pain reliever sa pasyente. Diba? Ano gagawin kung may pain reliever yung pasyente? Binigay ng 8 o'clock, hayaan mo na. Diba? Kailangan, pag binigay mo yung pain reliever ng 8 o'clock, ano gagawin daw? Diba sabi natin, in your pharmacology, diba, meron tayong tinatawag na pharmacodynamics and pharmacokinetics. Meron tayong tinatawag na half-life. Kailan mag-e-effect yung gamot? So, sa pain reliever, diba, usually dapat it would take effect 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or 1 hour. So, dapat, kung nagbigay ka ng 8 o'clock, dapat by 8:30 or 9 o'clock, babalik ka sa pasyente. You will assess. You will check, ma'am, sir, nawala po ba or nabawasan po ba yung pain nung binigay po natin yung gamot? Hindi yung pag-endorsement na lang tsaka kababalik. Sabi mo, magre-reklamo naman yung pag-in-pain pa rin yan. Diba? Hindi. Dapat bumabalik tayo, nire-reassess natin. Diba? Ano pa daw? Instruct patient to resume bed rest if chest pain and friction rub recur. So, pag umulit, sumakit ulit, bed rest ka ulit. Pag bed rest ulit yung patient natin. Okay? So, di ba sabi natin kanina sa pericarditis, di ba? Pwede siyang mag-lead to cardiac tamponade. That's why it is very important to monitor and ma-manage natin yung mga past potential complication. Di ba? Which is, ano daw? Kailangan natin ma-check if your patient is having pericardial effusion. Nagkakaroon na accumulation of fluid. That could lead to cardiac tamponade. Diba? Kasi, diba, yung pericardial effusion, it will lead to cardiac tamponade. So, ano yung effusion? Ito po, diba, sa normal, wala lang dapat, konti lang yung fluids niya. Pero sa, pag meron ng effusion or tamponade, dumadami. And ino-occupy niya yung space nung ating heart. Which is, ano nangyari? Nako-compress yung heart. Nahihirapan siya ngayon na tumibok. Diba? Kaya, paano natin malalaman is your patient is nagkakaroon na ng cardiac tamponade? Ano yung manifestation? Meron tayong tinatawag na Beck's triad. So, ano daw? Observe for neck vein distension and other signs of rising CVP or central venous pressure, which is the normal is 2 to 6 millimeter mercury. So, ano yung neck vein distension? Titingnan mo yung leeg ng pasyente. Diba? Kung bakat na bakat to, galit na galit yung ugat dyan. Diba? So, neck vein distension, jugular vein distension, same po yan. Kasi diba jugular vein yan, yung nasa leeg? Bakit siya namamaga? Bakit lumalaki? Bakit nagdi-distend yung neck vein? Diba sabi natin, during cardiac tamponade, nako-compress yung heart. So, kung nako-compress yung heart, hindi siya nakakapag-pump ng maayos. So, di ba sabi natin, yung ating right atrium, it receives blood from your superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. So, eto bang neck vein natin, nakadugtong ba yan, papunta ba yan sa superior vena cava? Yes. Ano nangyari? Nako-compress yung heart, nagta-traffic. So, ibig sabihin, hindi sila makadaan ng maayos, kaya namamaga. So, yun yung isa sa makikita natin, guys, patient. Ano daw? Yung CBP tumataas. So, how will we measure the CBP? So, usually, is patient, ini-insert siya ng central line, peripherally, dito sa kanyang antecubital area, going to the heart, and then gumagamit tayo ng manometer. So, mini-measure yung CBP through manometer. So, yung manometer, para siyang stick na manipis, na graduated siya, meron siyang number. So, doon mo ilalagay yung fluids from the IVF, tapos, i-drain mo siya papunta doon sa patient. So, tandaan, yung base dapat ng CBP or ng manometer is ka-level ng heart. So, hihintay mo yan habang bumababa, titingnan mo kung saan nagka-fluctuate. So, para ka nag-BP sa kanya. Then, yun yung magiging reading. Okay, next, ano pa daw? There will be a muffled heart sound. Ano yung muffled heart sound? Diba? Ano sabi? Diba, nagkakaroon ng cardiac tamponade, merong effusion, may tubig. So, parang nalulunod na yung puso. Kaya pag pinakinggan mo, yung sound niya parang nasa tubig. Di ba, alam mo yung speaker, di ba? Tumutugtog. Pag nilublog mo sa tubig, di ba, nag-iiba yung sound. So, ganun. Alam mo, yung kayo, yung sisigaw ka, tapos biglang lulubos na, diba? Nag-iiba yung sound. Ganun yung muffled, nalulunod yung tunog. Okay, ano pa daw? There will be paradoxical pulse or pulsus paradoxus. Ano yung pulsus paradoxus? If you're checking or you're getting the blood pressure of your patient, ano nangyayari? Tumataas or mas mataas ng 10 mm mercury yung systolic blood pressure niya during expiration. Dapat kasi hindi naman walang effect dapat yung inhale-exhale natin kapag nagbi-BP yung pasyente. Diba? Ano pa daw? There will be a falling blood pressure. Nagkakaroon ng narrow pulse pressure. So, how will we say that patient is having narrow pulse pressure? Paano daw? Anyone? Meron bang nakakalam? How will you identify or how will you say that your patient have narrow pulse pressure? Ano daw? Okay, so this is the ano daw, yung pulse pressure, it could be measured by your mean arterial pressure by ano daw, yung systolic blood pressure isusubtract mo sa diastolic blood pressure. And kung ano yung magiging sagot doon, that's your pulse pressure. So the normal is dapat nasa 40, 30 to 40 dapat yung difference niya. Kapag less than 20 below yung naging result, narrow. Ibig sabihin, ano nangyari? Di ba sabi natin, the diastolic and systolic, di ba? Systolic is the contraction, diastolic is the relaxation. Pag masyado siyang magkalapit, ibig sabihin, your heart doesn't have enough time to relax and to contract. Kaya tinawag siya ng narrow pulse pressure. Ano mangyayari pag ganun? It will lead to decrease in the cardiac output. Kasi diba, konting feeling, konting relaxation lang yung nangyari. Kumbaga, paunti-unti lang yung napoproduce na cardiac output ni patient. That's why, babagsak yung cardiac output ng pasyente natin. Okay? So, since na-observe mo yan, merong arterial pressure fall, systolic pressure fall, di ba? Anong nangyayari? Nag-round na. So, ibig sabihin, naglumalala yung pasyente. Inauscultate mo. Ano nangyari? Heart sound is parang ang hina or parang nawawala na yung heart sound, parang hindi mo na rin marinig yung heart sound. Diba? Nakita mo na merong neck vein distension. Ano na gagawin? Notify mo agad yung doktor. Inform mo agad yung doktor and prepare mo na agad that the doctor will do diagnostic echocardiography. Titingnan niya ngayon kung meron talagang effusion, merong nagkakaroon ba ng cardiac tamponade. If that happen, patient will be undergoing pericardiocentesis. So, tatanggalin yung fluid. Diba? So, habang hinihintay mo dumating yung doktor, assure your patient, continue to assess your patient. Diba? Record the signs and symptoms hanggang dumating yung doktor. Kasi emergency po yan. Diba? So, what will be our emergency care dun sa patient? So, pericardiocentesis, removal of the fluid or kung ano man yung nandun sa effusion. So, ano yung pang re-remove? So, using a gauge 16 to 18 na needle attached to your 20cc, tutusok siya dun sa chest ni patient para ma-drain. So, there are three types of procedure or three kinds of way para magawa po yung pericardiocentesis. Meron tayong tinatawag na ultrasound-guided pericardiocentesis. So, ibig sabihin, habang tinutusok, may ultrasound para makita ni doktor nasaan na yung needle. Kasi baka mamaya, dire-diretso, yung heart yung matusok niya. Diba? Naging isaw pa yung puso ng pasyente. Diba? Oh, that's one. Next is meron tayong ECG guided. So, paano naman ECG guided? Diba? Naka-attach, itong sample ito. So, merong alligator clamp dyan, nakakabit sa chest din ni patient, nakakonect yan. Tapos binabasa yung ECG ni patient while doing the procedure. Pag nagkaroon ng changes dun sa ST, changes. Diba? Sa ST changes, that's the muscle contraction. Diba? Yung contractility ng ating ventricles. So, kasi kapag nagkaroon ng ng changes doon, ibig sabihin, tinamaan yung heart muscle, kaya magre-react doon sa ECG. So, kailangan withdraw ng doktor. And worst comes to worst, the last one would be the blind approach. Ano yung blind approach? Wala kang 2D echo, wala kang ultrasound, wala kang ECG. So, gagawin ba yung blind approach? Yes. Kasi, pag hindi mo ginawa yung blind approach, ano mangyari? Mamamatay yung pasyente. Diba? Pag ginawa mo, may possibly mabuhay o masave mo yung pasyente or may possibility na mamatay mo dahil natusok mo yung heart. Pero at least 50-50 chance kesa wala kang ginawa. Okay, so para mas maintindihan nyo, pakita ko yung video kung paano ba ginagawa yung pericardiocentesis.
Ultrasound-guided pericardiocentesis is recommended because it allows direct visualization of the pericardial effusion as well as the needle used for drainage as it enters the pericardium. If an ultrasound machine is not available, electrocardiographic monitoring is recommended during the procedure to indicate when the needle makes contact with the myocardium. A blind approach can be attempted if neither electrocardiographic monitoring nor an ultrasound machine is immediately available, but this approach is often associated with unacceptably high morbidity and mortality as compared to one that incorporates ultrasonography or electrocardiography. Use bedside ultrasonography to identify the pericardial effusion and to guide your approach to emergency pericardiocentesis. The immediate subxiphoid approach to emergency pericardiocentesis begins just below the xiphoid process. Insert the spinal needle with the stylet in place to prevent dermal tissue from plugging the needle. Once the needle has punctured the skin, remove the stylet and attach a 3-way stopcock and a 20 cc syringe. Advance the needle toward the left shoulder while aspirating continuously. The internal images presented here show the needle entering the thoracic cavity and advancing toward the heart. After puncturing the pericardium, the needle enters the potential space surrounding the myocardium. Using real-time ultrasound imaging, guide the needle toward the largest collection of pericardial fluid. Withdraw fluid from the pericardial effusion by aspirating with the syringe. Removing even a small amount of fluid can lead to dramatic improvements in cardiac output and blood pressure. Once the needle is properly oriented to remove fluid easily, empty fluid from the syringe by attaching tubing to a 3-way stopcock. Continue to remove pericardial fluid until vital signs normalize and no further fluid can be removed from the pericardium. The parasternal approach is an alternative method for performing emergency pericardiocentesis. Insert the needle perpendicular to the chest wall in the 5th intercostal space, just lateral to the sternum. Use ultrasonography to locate the largest portion of the effusion that is close to the body surface and guide the needle into the pericardial sac to aspirate fluid. If ultrasonographic guidance is not available, attach a sterile alligator clip and wire to the spinal needle and connect the wire to a precordial lead on a continuous electrocardiographic monitor. As you advance the needle, monitor the electrocardiographic tracing for ST segment elevation, which indicates that the needle has been advanced too far and is in contact with the myocardial surface. If this occurs, withdraw the needle until ST segment elevation resolves, then redirect the needle to obtain pericardial fluid. Blind pericardiocentesis can be performed by entering the skin at a 45-degree angle and advancing the needle toward the left shoulder. Again, this approach to the procedure is associated with a higher rate of complications than when it is guided by ultrasonography or electrocardiography. The blind approach should only be used in an emergency, when neither of these two forms of monitoring is immediately available. After completion of the pericardiocentesis, visualize the heart with ultrasonography to confirm the removal of the pericardial fluid.
Yan. So, after nung procedure, syempre, kailangan i-ultrasound tingnan kung ano nangyari. Na-drain ba lahat yung blood? Nag-okay na ba yung pagtibok ng puso? Diba? Kasi nga, wala nang fluids. Diba? So, ano do? Echocardiography. So, ito yung echo, sample ng echocardiogram. So, sa echo na to, makikita mo, ayan, yung effusion, yung kulay black. Ayan, o. Ito yung fluids around your heart. So, kagaya nito, nakukompress yung right ventricle. Diba? So, kaya, kailangan i-check. So, ito yung actual na video nung echo. So, ito, this is your heart na tumitibok. So, nasa paligid niya ng black na yan, that's the effusion. Tingnan mo to, yung ventricle, hirap siya. Kasi, Di ba madaming fluids, kinukompress siya ng fluids. Ayan na, nagkakaroon daw ng right ventricular collapse. Kasi nga yung fluids, sinecompress niya yung heart ni patient. So this is a normal speed. Di ba? Kung ganito po ng puso, di ba? Kung nagwawala na siya. Kasi nga parang na siyang nalulunod. Okay, we can also do CT scan. Sabi nga natin, CT scan can also reveal the pericardial effusion. So this is a sample of CT scan. So top view, so this is the heart and this is the effusion dun sa patient natin. Okay? Chest x-ray. Pwede ba sa chest x-ray? Yes. For chest x-ray, it will show that the heart is enlarged. And ano yun? Enlarged, ano na itsura? Water bottle appearance. O, sabihin, sino asan yung bote dyan? Hindi po ba bote ng Aqua Plus? Ano, yung sinaunang bote. Di ba ganyan dati yung mga bote na ginagamit ng mga travel? Ayan, so enlarge siya pag sinek sa chest x-ray. Okay, next is the, ano daw? Chronic constrictive pericarditis. So sabi nga natin, because of the inflammation, di ba, ano daw, nagiging rigid, nagiging makapal. Kaya inadequate yung ventricular filling. That will lead to right-sided heart failure. So, i-discuss yan natin further. Okay, may question po ba? Wala? Sure? Sige. So, let's continue with myocarditis. Ano naman meron sa myocarditis? Sabi natin, myocarditis, diba, from the word itself, inflammation of the myocardium. Yung muscle or yung middle part ng heart is, ayun, nagiging namamaga nagiging thick, kumakapal siya. Ngayon, so what are the causes? So, sabi natin, pwede ring infection. Diba? Viral, fungal, bacterial, kahit anong klaseng infection, pwede siya. Okay, saan din niya? Pwede siya makuha of chronic alcohol and cocaine abuse. Diba? Nag-a-addict. Diba? Lasinggero na, nag-a-addict pa. Diba? Radiation therapy, pwede rin po. Same with pericarditis, autoimmune disorder like your systemic lupus erythematosus, Crohn's disease, sabi tuka po yan. Or those patient who is, bulimic. Ano yung bulimic? Na nagtitik daw ng ipecac syrup. Yung kakain ng kakain, dahil ayaw nila tumawa after nila kumain, ipoporge nila na magsuka sila. So, dinudukot para sumuka, ilabas nila yung kinain nila para hindi absorb ng katawan. So, anong nangyari? Di ba? Yung ating stomach, normal siya na acidic. But your esophagus, hindi yan normal na acidic in nature. Susuka, pipilitin mo sumuka. So, ngayon, yung acid content ng stomach, bumabalik. So, pwedeng masira yung inyong esophagus. Which is, esophagus is, nasa harapan niya yung heart. Diba? Pwede rin siyang madami. Pwede mabutas, pwede mag-leak dyan. Okay, so what will be the manifestation of myocarditis? Sabi natin, depende yan. Depende saan? Depende sa klase ng infection. Kung anong klaseng infection yung nag-cause ng myocarditis. Depende din daw sa degree ng myocardial damage. Gaano nasira, gaano naapektuhan yung heart muscle ni patient. Pa daw, capacity of the myocardium to recover. Kasi, diba, iba-ibang respond yan. Especially, depende sa age. Diba? Yung mas matanda versus mas bata. Sino yung mas mabilis or sino mas may kakayahan mag-recover ng myocardium? Siyempre, yung mas bata na pasyente. Okay, so patient may have chest pain pa din. So, saan naman yung chest pain niya? Kanina, left side. Dito naman, chest and upper abdomen. Kasi nga, heart muscle na yan. So, di ba sabi natin, your heart lies in the mediastinum, sa gitna ng lungs natin, between your lungs, and above your diaphragm. Kaya, pati abdomen, yung upper abdomen, sumasakit. Diba? Patient have tachycardia, diba? In pain. May dysrhythmia, irregular yung heartbeat. May dyspnea, nahihirapan huminga. May malaise din, nanghihina. Pagod, parang pagod na pagod. Walang gana kumain. Diba? Maputla or cyanotic. Kasi ineffective din yung pag-pump ng heart. So, ibig sabihin, nagkukulang din yung oxygen na nadideliver ng ating heart. And signs and symptoms of right-sided heart failure. So, sabi ko nga, later on, in the next discussion natin, i-discuss natin yung right-sided heart failure. And the most common symptoms are flu-like. So, para siyang tinatrangkaso. Diba? Na may chest pain. So, sabi dito, patient may develop severe congestive heart failure or pwede rin, kapag hindi siya naagapan, it can sustain sudden cardiac death. So, bigla na mamamatay din yung heart ni patient. So, what will be our assessment? Diba? Makita natin that the heart is enlarged. Diba? Ano pa daw? Pag inauscultate, faint heart sound. So, especially yung S1, pag pinakinggan mo, at parang walang S1, dub, parang dub lang yung maririnig mo. And, may additional. Gallop rhythm. Nagkakaroon ng S3 and S4. Diba? Ang normal, lab-dub. Yung sa kanya, parang nabubulol. Kasi nga, nagkakaroon ng problem. Dun sa, yung pamamaga, di ba? Kaya nagkakaroon ng extra sound. Ano pa daw? There will be systolic murmur. Di ba? Yung may marinig ka parang naggagush yung blood. Iba yung pag pinakinggan mo yung heart sound ng pasyente, meron kang additional sound na maririnig. Okay? In diagnostic, same lang din po siya sa ating pericarditis. Increase yung WBC, increase yung C-reactive protein, and other cardiac isoenzymes, and siyempre yung ECG abnormal. Kasi diba sabi natin, the ECG represent the muscle contraction, muscle activity of your heart. Diba, sa myocarditis, the heart muscle is affected. Diba? Chest x-ray will also show abnormalities, and sa echocardiogram, abnormal din. Sa MRI, with contrast para makita, yung cardiac biopsy, mas malinaw yung heart muscle kung ano na yung nangyayari sa kanya. Okay, so what will be our intervention? Sabi natin, same. Kay, parang kagaya din ng pericarditis. So, sa myocarditis, promote bed rest pa din. So, bakit? Diba sabi natin, we want to decrease the cardiac workload para mabawasan din natin yung myocardial damage and ma-prevent yung complication. Kasi nga, magana siya pagtatrabahuhin mo ng pagtatrabahuhin. Di lalong mahihirapan yung heart, lalong mahihirapan niya mag-recover. Kaya dapat, bed rest si patient. Sabi daw, next, sodium restricted diet. Bakit kailangan maging strict with the sodium? Diba? Yung sodium, nag-a-attract ng water. And ipag mataas yung sodium, mag-attract ng water, nadami tubig, tataas ba yung blood volume? So, pag tumaas yung blood volume, mag-predispose ba siya na mag-increase yung cardiac workload? Yes. That's why, binabantayan yung sodium din niya. Ayaw natin. And monitor cardiopulmonary status and complication ng chronic heart failure or dysrhythmia. So, we need to monitor closely the vital signs of the patient. Diba? BP, pulse rate, heart rate, temperature, oxygenation, also the pain. Kasama yan, diba? Pang 6 vital signs natin ang pain. Ngayon daw, daily weight. Diba? Kailangan daw i-check yung weight ng pasyente every day. Bakit kailangan? Kasi overnight, hindi ka naman bibigat agad-agad. Baka hapon, 50 ka lang, pagising mo, 52 kilos ka na. It will happen if nagkaroon ng fluid retention. That's why it is important to monitor yung weight ni patient. And please take note, if you will get the weight of your patient, every morning ang pagkukuha niyan. Para makita mo kung nag-gain talaga ng weight. Kasi kung may nag-gain ng 1 kilo or 2 kilos just overnight, ibig sabihin, nagkaroon ng fluid retention. So, problem yun. Okay? So, same with monitoring of the intake and output of your patient. The intake and the output should be, magkalapit lang yan dapat. Diba? Ang intake ng pasyente, 2,000 liters. Ang output, 750. May problem kaya? Meron. Sabi, sir, normal naman yung 750 kasi di ba normal output 30 cc per hour lang naman? Hindi normal yon. Kasi sobrang layo. Ibig sabihin, baka may nare-retain dun sa katawan ni pasyente. Di ba? Okay? So, monitor pulse oximeter, cardiac monitoring, and check if your patient is having dependent edema, na maamanas ba yung pasyente mo. Kasi nga, kung namamanas siya, it is a sign that your patient is having congestive heart failure, di ba? Nagkakaroon na ng problem sa pagtibok ng puso ni patient. Sabi ito, in young patient, activities, especially athletes, should be limited for 6 months period or at least your heart size and function have returned to normal. So, pag nag-normal na. And increase ulit gradually, slowly, yung activity niya. If heart failure and dysrhythmia develop, management is essential. Same for, heart failure and dysrhythmias. And tandaan, if your patient is having heart failure, bawal si beta blockers. So, ano problema kay beta blockers? Ano ba yung mga sample ng beta blockers? Beta blockers are your olos, diba? Metoprolol, calvedolol, ano pa? Basta yung mga olol na gamot. Kasi, di ba yung carvedilol, nire-relax din niya yung muscle. Kaso, yung rhythm baka maglalong bumagal. And ito pa isang tatandaan when it comes to beta blockers, bawal din po ibigay ang beta blockers sa may mga asthma. Kasi it will constrict your lungs. So, lalo mahirapan huminga yung pasyente. Kaya, very important that we know the adverse effect, the adverse reaction, and contraindication of mga meds natin. Diba? Kasi, meron tayong right or meron tayong responsibility to inform the doctor or sabihin kay Doc, sure po tayo, beta blockers. Diba, Doc, parang ano po to, bawal po to sa ganyan. O, diba? Kung alam mo, diba, sabihin, ay, ang galing naman ng nurse ko, buti na, alala mo, nakalimutan ng doktor. Diba? So, kaya importante. Kasi tayo nagbibigay ng gamot sa pasyente. Okay? So, what will be our treatment or intervention? So, kung bacterial, so, we will give appropriate antibiotic. Ano pa daw? We can also give cardiotonic drugs, yung digitalis. Ano yun naman yung digitalis? So, ano ginagawa ng digitalis na yan? So, digitalis, kilala nyo to as digoxin, lanoxin, ano naman yung gusto nyo tawag dyan. Diba? So, ano ginagawa niyan? So, your digoxin help to relax the muscle, but tinutulungan niya maging strong yung contraction. So, pinagre-relax, strong contraction. So, paano yun? Diba? Hindi bibilis yung tibok ng puso. Pinapabagal na. That's why, very important that if your patient is taking digitalis drugs or taking digoxin, prior giving the medication, you need to check the vital signs, especially the heart rate. If the heart rate of patient is less than 60 and greater than 120, withhold and inform the doctor kung itutuloy ba yung pagbigay ng gamot. Kasi pag less than 60, halimbawa 50, bumagsak ng 50 yung heart rate ng pasyente, binigyan mo pa ng digitalis. Pwedeng continuously mag-drop yung heartbeat ng pasyente mo. Diba? Ano ba daw? Watch out for signs and symptoms ng digitalis toxicity. Through what? Kapag tumataas yung potassium ni patient. Kaya makikita nyo kapag naka-digitalis, minomonitor din po yung potassium ng pasyente natin. Okay? So, tabi natin, myocarditis can cause heart dilatation, thrombi at the heart of wall of your heart, infiltration, so pwede magkaroon ng mga bara-bara dyan through the coronary vessels and sa mga muscle fibers, and degeneration of the muscle fibers. So, pwede nang masira mismo yung muscle fibers mismo ng heart natin. Question? May question po ba? Wala. Sige. Next would be the rheumatic fever and rheumatic heart disease. Narinig na yan? Yes, na-discuss na rin yan nung pediatric ninyo. So, sabi natin, when we say rheumatic fever, rheumatic heart disease is a systemic inflammatory disease of the childhood, usually developed after the upper respiratory tract infection. And it's caused by group A beta hemolytic streptococcal na nagkukos ng pharyngitis. Diba? And it mainly involves the heart, the joints, the central nervous system, skin, and the subcutaneous tissues na nangyayari yan. So, that is your rheumatic fever. So, pag sinabing rheumatic fever, general siya. Diba? Pero pag sinabi na natin rheumatic heart disease, It refers na sa cardiac manifestation ng ating rheumatic fever. So, ibig sabihin, nakafocus yung sakit nasa heart, kaya rheumatic heart disease na yung tawag. And ano nangyayari? Pag may rheumatic heart disease, the patient is having pancarditis. Pan meaning all. All of the muscle, all of the layers of the heart is inflamed. May myocarditis, may pericarditis, may endocarditis si patient. Diba? Kaya mahirap siya gamutin. So, during the early acute and chronic vascular disease, nangyayari din si rheumatic heart disease natin. So, ayan, sample, ayan, namamaga siya. Kaya, importante, or di ba ina-advise, i-patient is paulit-ulit yung tonsillitis. Diba? Pag more than 6 times a year nagkakatonsil, they advise that the patient undergo tonsillectomy. Kasi, eventually, kapag yan, paulit-ulit, pwedeng mapunta sa heart yung infection that could cause rheumatic heart disease. Or pwedeng other pa, pwede naman kahit anong itis na yan. Okay, what is the pathophysiology of your rheumatic heart disease? Sabi natin, antibodies are formed to destroy yung group A beta hemolytic streptococcus microorganism na yan. Normal response ng katawan. The problem is, yung antibodies natin, ano daw, it mistakenly cross-react against the protein in the connective tissue of the heart. So, kala niya ngayon, yung mga pinorm na antibodies na yan, instead na yung B hemolytic streptococcus yung kalabanin, yung connective tissue dun sa heart, or yung protein dun sa heart, yun yung kinakalaban niya. Diba? Namali siya. Mali yung pagkaintindi niya. Kaya yung heart mismo, yung inatake niya, kaya namamaga. Kaya nagkaroon ng pancarditis. Kaya pwedeng magkaroon ng heart failure si patient natin. So, ganun yung nangyayari sa ating rheumatic heart disease. May question po ba? Kaya pa? Baka sabihin nyo, sobra-sobra naman na. Sige. So, we will continue with endocarditis next week.